Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Base Picks. As always, please like and subscribe. If you have a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between, it's appreciated. Look, we've got Carlos Adames versus Hamzah Sheeraz. Now, this is another one of those fights that I see keys to victory for both guys. And it's funny because if you look at both individuals, they both started their careers at 154 pounds. That's, I think, I think Adames started off at 147, if I remember correctly. But obviously looking at the two, there's going to be the distinct height advantage, the size advantage for Hamzah Sheeraz. The question is that he makes middleweight, and we don't really know how he manages to make the weight, but part of it is he stays disciplined. He doesn't put on too much weight in between fights. He's very sort of careful with what he eats and stuff, so he sticks in and around his fight weight. He probably doesn't ever weigh more than at most 180 pounds at this point in time, which is still 20 pounds, but I feel like that's probably the heaviest he sort of walks around at this point, and he probably walks around closer to like maybe 175, 174, and that's how he's managing to sort of keep making that weight. I could be wrong, he could walk around heavier than that, but Adames, the one thing I guess with Sheeraz is that he's in general has had a lot more activity of late than Adames has. Now look, his last fight was in September, Adames' last fight was in June last year, so there's 2.5 months apart from each other in terms of when they fought. Maybe you could say 3 months. So Sheeraz is obviously a bit more he's sort of a bit more well-oiled at this point, and he's had better activity, plus he's been fighting more regularly. But then you say, well, quality of competition, you probably got to give that one to Carlos Adames. Like he's fought a lot more former world champions, or a lot more established credited names. Sergey Derevyanchenko was a great win for him. J. Rock Williams was a good win for him. Patrick Teixeira was a good win for him, but down at 154. Wait, Teixeira? No, did he lose the Teixeira fight? Okay, I can't even remember if that was no, that might have been the one loss that he had, actually, the Teixeira fight. But okay, yeah, no, that was the fight he lost. My point being is that he's fought a lot more higher level opposition. So he definitely has got the experience on that side. But even just looking at him in his last fight, he didn't look that great. Now, he had been out of the ring for a while. There's a lot of ring rust. He was waiting for the Jamal Charlo fight, which didn't take place. Eventually got elevated to full champion of the WBC. So yeah, you could maybe be forgiven to saying there was some ring rust there, but notoriously he has been one that doesn't always put in the work and put in the graft that he needs to. And I have a feeling that he looks at this fight and sees Hamzah Sheeraz as just another, basically almost like a hype job. This guy from the UK, nothing special about him. I've been in there with bigger and better opposition. Like, I'll deal the job and I'll do the job. I know he said that he's looking to win by decapitation on Saturday. First things first, I mean, look, he's a good puncher, he's a good boxer, but he doesn't hit that hard. The issue is going to be, though, what is Hamzah Sheeraz's punch resistance going to be like? He said he's possibly got another 2 to 3 fights at 160. Personally, I think that if he wins this fight, unless that Chris Eubank Jr. fight is next, he moves up, because there's no one else for him to fight at 160 pounds, quite frankly. And to keep trying to make this weight is not sensible, outside of that one particular fight. But yeah, look, Adames, he can be hurt, he can be open, but he's got pretty good footwork. His defense isn't great, and I feel that's where he can be exploited over the top. Now, Hamzah Sheeraz had issues with Ammo Williams, because Ammo Williams, obviously being from that southpaw stance, he was throwing, he was actually throwing those shots in between Hamzah's, but he was throwing them from angles that Hamzah isn't really used to fighting at. But Hamzah was able to get the measure and get the range of him quite quickly. Sort of after the fourth round, it was pretty much, it was all Hamzah until the stoppage. The guard of Hamzah is also, again, I talk about this a lot, the way that his elbows are able to touch his pelvis and his arms cover the entire sides, top, front of his face. It's quite incredible how he's able to, sort of keep everything covered at that point. I don't think he's gonna, be on the back foot enough whereby Adames has any sustained success in the fight. I think the first few rounds obviously going to be trickiest, the most dangerous, when Adames is obviously trying to throw power punches. He'll try to dig to the body. He'll try to put one into the body to drop the hands and then throw over the top to try and get through the guard, which I've seen him do quite a lot. Sometimes successful, sometimes not. But I don't trust his conditioning. And I think that's where the fight will be won and lost. I feel like Hamzah will fight at a pace that he can master and manage, like, for the entire 12 rounds. Whereas I feel like Carlos Adames he's gonna almost come out explosive, try to get an early night, and then have to be managing and hanging on to his reserves and his energy down the stretch. Yes, I can see a scenario where maybe he does catch and wobble Sheeraz a little bit. We've seen it before, but Sheeraz also seems to be quite composed in getting through a crisis. But I can see more scenarios where Sheeraz is the one landing the heavier, harder shots, and Adames has to cover up. He has to try to retreat. He has to back off, circle the ring, and almost acquiesce to the fact that he's not going to win the fight. And then it's the choice of, does he go for broke for hopefully that Hail Mary shot, but in doing so leave himself open to get stopped? Or is he happy to kind of say that he went the distance and then maybe go about looking at another version of a world title at 160? But I don't think he's not big enough to move up to 168. He could lose this fight and then get a belt back within like a fight or two. Maybe not the WBO or the IBF, but the WBA is still in play at 160. So I guess we'll wait and see. But look, my prediction is I do think Hamzah Sheeraz, just based on hard, effective punching, will win the fight. But I think it's going to go points. I think Adames will choose the safety first option after the first 4 to 5 rounds. Probably get outworked, get outlanded, but not hit with anything bad enough that he can't take it. And then sort of just box and move, not run, but box and move, stay on the outside, try to stay as safe as possible, and just lose rounds that way. So I do think that Hamzah Sheeraz wins this fight, and I think he becomes champion and does it via a unanimous decision. So that's my opinion. Leave yours down below. Let me know what you think, please. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much for watching. It's another Basis Pick. Locked.